Howdy, Beefalo Bart here, and welcome. Alrighty, I got a wild hair up my butt today and decided that I wanted to do something with a mini golf game. Something I had never tried before, so there's still a lot more that needs to be done to get it perfect, but it's playable. Um, just as an example here, put together just a sample hole on what we've got so far, and start location, your ball drops in, and I've made some sample starter pieces that are going to be the base platforms for getting started. Yes, they're way up in the air. It's also to show off another feature that I've got set up in here that if you do go out of bounds, then it will reset you to where your last position was before you took the shot. And there's still a lot of little tweaks that will need to be fixed in here. So you can kind of pan around, take a look right here. Well, you can't really pan, but you can circle around. The basic control so far is, and I've disabled the shot counter. It does work, or the stroke counter. I just have it disabled for right now, just so I can work on some other things. And the progress bar at the bottom right, by moving your mouse wheel, scrolling backwards, pulling back on the mouse wheel, will increase the power level with a max currently set at 2500. So if you keep going, it's just going to top out at 2500. And if you pull forward on the wheel, as you can see, the progress bar goes back and forth as well. A minimum power of 50. And let's go ahead and max out the power and purposely try to knock it out of bounds. Now, currently right now, the physics applied, if you shoot right here, it's going to put the physics down. So you want to kind of lean it back and get it going. So if you do knock it out of bounds, then it's going to hit an actual blocking, not a blocking volume, but I'll show you the blueprint here in just a moment. It will actually reset you back on the course, and it's to prevent you from going out of bounds and staying out of bounds. It's kind of a fail-safe. So, like I said, with these little sample pieces, you can throw little bumpers in on the corners if you want to kind of help out. So the mouse wheel, just scrolling it back and forth, will get your ball based on minimum of 50, maximum of 250. I left the print string on there so you can see where I'm going back and forth on the power level. Plus the like I said, the bottom right hand corner shows your power meter. This is just one of the ways you can do advancing the power. I kind of wanted it a little bit more manual. Yes, I know I suck. Oh, you bastard. So let's lighten it up and just kind of tap it over here so I can get back in line again. Right now I don't have it to where you can't shoot until you stop, but that's something that will be added in. So it kind of, you can't just keep shooting and adjusting the power. It automatically will decrease your power back to minimum after you make your shot. And I will add a little bit more friction to it, but again, I'll show you the blueprints here in just a second. Just want to show you what happens whenever you actually do make it into the cup, if you ever make it in, especially if you play like me. Let's bring it up to about 500, get it rolling, and not going to be enough, and not good enough. But there is a cup at the end, and the cup does have its own blueprint that goes along with it as well. And whatever you do sink it, it drops in the hole, and then after a short delay, it resets you back at the beginning again. What I've done with the cup itself, you can see the this right here, not the sky, dum-dum. The out of bounds, what it does is you just place it into the map and sink it below the level of the bottom of the cup, and you now have a fail-safe to reset you if it does go out of bounds. The cup itself, I've added a next hole transfer, and I'll show you this in the blueprint here in just a second. And we've got multiple holes. Right now it's set to go back to right here, which is the start position. So all you do is you put in your XYZ coordinates for your location, a rotation if you want to add a rotation figure in there. And right now the ball is set to be scaled at 0.25. That's something that I will address later on, but you do have the ability to ensure that you set the scale. If you wanted to go from hole 1 to hole 2 and suddenly you have big old gigantic balls, then you can increase the size of the ball by changing this parameter right here. So I'm going to go to another quick test map. It's going to show you here with multiple holes whenever you are playing. Start off here, and 550 to 600 is perfect. Not that I'm going to sink it on the first try, but who knows? There you go. So it automatically transfers me now after 3 seconds to the next hole, and I'm lined up ready to go. I do need to add a feature to stop it from moving. I just haven't yet. And out of bounds. So it will reset me back to my start position. See, that's why I needed to add a stop to it, so that it will not roll once it resets. So it's a very simple system, not a whole lot involved. Again, I'll show you the blueprints here in just a second. Like I said, I do need to add a feature in to prevent you from doing that continuously. And this was actually made before I created the actual static meshes for the base boundaries. So, alright, let's get into some of the blueprints. As you can see, I kind of messed that up because that material's wrong. These are materials that I created that were based off the Synty Studios materials. I tried to get them close to things like the sand or dirt, mud, grass, things of that nature. And I made them quite a long time ago, so they're not perfect. They're just a simple material just to kind of go along with the Synty colors. So assets wise, meshes, I created these static meshes just as the base platforms. So when you're actually creating a map, now all you have to do is just drop it in here. They're pre-sized to be 200 units wide on the ground area, with a 25 unit high fence around them. And I need to change the pivot points, but doesn't matter. They're there. They've got their own collisions and everything else. But I can place those into the map and start prototyping out the actual course. As for blueprints on the gadgets, the out of bounds, essentially all I've done is create a box collision, and then inside the blueprint, this is all there is. Currently, right now, my player pawn is actually the golf ball, and I just called it Golfer 1. I just was making something up here. But then all you do is you right click on the box collision and select on component begin overlap, and then from other actor cast out to your golfer, and then I set a delay of 3 seconds. I got a reference to the shot location from the player pawn, and then I set the actor relative location with the teleport. Now I will have to come back in here and add in something to physically stop them from moving, but this is all I added for the out of bounds. That's it. Got 5 nodes. For the cup itself, the sound files I got from royalty-free sounds and had to modify them so they would work correctly with UE4. But same basic principle. It's just a box collision that you can scale to whatever size you need. And then the same thing on component begin overlap. You cast your golfer, and getting the location of your box collision, you get your world location, and you're going to play a sound at this location. This is currently not set up for multiplayer, but I have my multiplayer menu system in here, so I will be able to do multiplayer with this. So we'll try to set it up to where either one golfer at a time or whatever, so you don't have a collision issue when you're teeing off. But it might be fun to have collisions on so you can knock somebody else out of the way later on. But again, on this, I set a delay of 3 seconds, and then set the next hole transform, which is a variable I created here, and I clicked here to make sure that I exposed it so I could edit it once I placed it into the map. And then set actor relative transform to go along with the next hole transform. And again, this next hole transform is data that you get from your actual hole itself. from once you place that into the map, you open up this tab right here, and you set that information in. And just because you set this information in here, now when you put the next one in, oh, it's not a problem. Yeah, the theme setup, I really have thought about doing characters, so when you actually go to play, you have, and the ball size is going to get a little bit smaller too, but when you first start off, you could have a character standing there doing an animation for a putt. I do have the animations not set up for the Synty characters just yet, but that's easy enough to do. Animation wise, they're still in the temp folder. But I've got a basic putt animation. I do need to fix the hands. Whenever I retargeted them from Mixamo animations, it didn't retarget correctly and the hands didn't get translated over. So that's something I need to look at later. But I do have for the putt, drive, and chip, and I was setting up a montage for it as well. And these were the actual Mixamo animations. As you can see, their hands are somewhat wrong still, but closer. So you can put a club in their hands. Retargeting Mixamo to UE4 and then over to the Synty characters can sometimes be a little bit touchy, but it's not horrible. To do that, I mean, simply all I got to do is just retarget these over and fix the UE4 mannequin, and I've shown how to do that in a bunch of my videos. I'm retargeting UE4 default animations over to Synty characters. I've shown that like 100 times in videos, so got plenty of those on that. The widget for the player HUD to get this right here and the shot count, essentially whenever you go into your graph, there's nothing in here whatsoever in the event graph, but you do have two functions, the putt strength and the stroke count. What I've done is, since the max power is 2500, I've got a cast 2 node for my golfer. I got a reference to my player pawn, and then I got the launch speed, and I'll show you that in the actual player character here in just a second. But the max power of your putt is 2500. So I took the launch speed and divided it by 2500, it's float divided by float, and put that into the return node. For the shot counter, which I can turn that back on, but I have to do some other tweaks. So when you get done shooting one hole, I need to make it reset so that when you go to hole 2, it resets your shot counter. It's simple to do, I just haven't taken the time to do it yet. But essentially it gets an integer from your golfer character, and it to text integer and your return node there. It's stupid simple. I like to keep it on screen like this for a few seconds in case someone wants to come back in and copy this. But I do like to go through and explain how things actually work. For the character blueprints, the golfer itself, there's a few things in here. And we're going to start with the event begin play. Something that I always do is I set input mode to game only with a reference to my player controller. I create a widget. I mean, all you're going to do is just drag in here and create widget, and then change the actual class over to the name of the widget you're wanting to use, and add to viewport. So these are going to get your game mode correct and get that widget showing on your screen, and disable mouse cursor with set show mouse cursor default. Then I'm getting a reference to my golf ball and getting the world transform and a reset location. So once I get the rest of it done, you hit a putt and you're stuck somewhere behind something, and oh god, it just really sucks. You can hit the R key and it'll reset you back where you were in the beginning of the match. So if you take a penalty stroke, it starts you back at the beginning all over again. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with that, was instead of just a mulligan, you're actually you're going to lose out on everything. All your progress on the hole gets lost. Yay, and there was much rejoicing. So I wanted a reset feature in there, so that's what I did, was I set that reset location, and then on the reset location you press the R key. It retrieves that variable, which, you know, it's just a transform, and it sets actor relative transform, and it resets your launch speed also. What I've done is launch speed defaults to 50. I can change that to whatever I want. I could change that to 250, and it's like, we'll do 250 here and now. So if I hit save and compost and save, go into the map, hit play, you can see my red bar is farther over now, and if I just hit to bump it, it went to that, but it knocked it back down to the minimum of 50 after I finished with that. So I've kept it at 50, so you could actually just come in here and have a default pretty much at the bottom. So you always have to adjust up if you want to get increased power. It was just what I was thinking would be best overall. So to adjust the power of your hit, and I'll get to how to actually do that, the hit portion. I used mouse wheel up. If you right click and type in mouse wheel, you've got mouse events, which are axis, down, and up. And I don't use that one right there, but that's how you can actually retrieve the axis of it, but I've never seen a use for it. So you just use mouse wheel up, and this is going to be for your minus. This is pushing the mouse wheel forward away from you. And what you're going to do is get your base launch speed, and you're going to subtract 50 from that. So it's a float minus a float, and setting up, set your launch speed to this new value. And then it checks minimum launch speed right here. It checks to see if this value is now less than your minimum. If it is less than your minimum, then it's going to set it to your minimum. So if you try to go below 50, it's going to just say, screw you, you're staying at 50. So that's kind of like a clamp feature in here in a open symbol form. So it just clamps your minimum. And same thing here, since you're adding 50, your max launch speed. So I've got minimum launch speed is 50. See right there. And then maximum launch speed is 2500. So I can use those variables to help cap them right here. So I'm going to hold here in just a second. So if anybody needs to look at this or take a screenshot or wants to pause, you're getting both of them in here at the same time. After that, all I've done is just do a print string. Not necessary, but I wanted to see what the values were. So that's that. For the left mouse button to actually hit the ball, again, all you do is you right click and type in left mouse button, and this will come up. Get a reference to your golf ball, and all I've got is a golf ball, spring arm, and a camera in here. And I've got the spring arm attached to the golf ball, camera attached to the spring arm. So when you do hit your left mouse button, you're retrieving this world location. You're going to play sound at location, and the sound is the sound of your putter hitting the ball. And it's going to set shot location. So if you do go out of bounds, it's going to use this location, this vector, to actually retrieve your last known location when you took the shot. Okay, so as you can see all along the bottom right here, what this is doing is getting your control rotation. You're going to break that rotator, which all you do is just drag off from here and break rotator. And then it's going to default going from here to here or wherever. You just change your pins because you're only changing the yaw, the bottom one, Z. And then from here you're getting your forward vector, and you're multiplying your vector times a float, which is your launch speed based off of what you set with your mouse wheel. And then to finish that off, see, this is the stroke counter thing that I was putting in. Set physics linear velocity to your golf ball using this velocity information you picked up from doing this part right here. I'll let you look at that and screenshot it if you need to. Um, going back up one more, we're picking up a few things here. Your mouse Y and mouse X. And what we're doing is inverting the value here for your Y so that your camera doesn't sit there and spin along with the golf ball. Mouse X is adding controller yaw input. So that's just the way of the Jedi here, so that when you actually go in here to hit play, you can actually move your mouse around. And whichever way you're looking is whichever way you're applying physics to that ball. So if I choose to look this way, it's going to knock my ball that way. If I choose to look this way, and what I'm thinking about doing is adding an arrow component in, and that way you can actually see. But I think that's kind of cheating a little bit. Depends on user feedback for anybody who wants to kind of chip in and help along the way. So I've got the basics there. There's a few things that I need to tweak, like making the ball stop completely whenever you get to the end. But the basics of the blueprint, essentially this is your ball, and you know, it looks like a bunch, but there's not a whole lot actually in the actual golfer itself. Your golfer is the golf ball right now. I said I was thinking about adding in the Synty characters as the golfer and setting up the animations and so forth, but not sure yet. I didn't change anything. It still wants me to save. So adding in the Synty characters and actually setting up a map. By doing the way that I've got it right now, with the temporary meshes that I put together for the base, I can start placing in and building the basic components of the actual golf course itself, which I'm not even going to use this floor that I had in there before. Starting with a blank map, which was just going to File, New Level, and selecting Default, and then deleting the floor and the reflection capture. Allows me to start off with right where I am here, and I'm going to start with, I've created one as a start point, and I'm going to do this at 0, 0, and 0 location, and my player start should be 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to bring it down to about 150. So whenever I hit start, it's going to drop down to right there and be in my start point where I want to tee off from. So with having these basic geometries here, I can now bring them into the map, and like 0, 0, and 0. By the way that I made them, they are based off of 200 units and 50 units. The base height is 50 for the actual platform, and the lengthwise is based off of 200. So it'll be 200 by or 400 or 600, 800, 1,000. So you could set it up that way. I've created the start point, a 200 by 200 length section, and a ramp section, 200 high section. I wanted it to where they would join together. Again, not totally necessary. But what I'm wanting to do here is set this up as the basics for how the actual hole is going to play out. And then I'll come in here and start decorating, like adding in water, things of that nature. This, I've currently got the Pirates theme in there, but I'm going to do dungeons, I'll do city, I'll do samurai, whatever. I'll do the different Synty Studios asset packs, bring them in, and it'll allow me to set up each course of 18 holes. I can set them up individually with different themes, and with all the different Synty Studios assets, you got all these different themes you can work with. So it'd be pretty damn cool, actually. Let's see. Not going to build a complicated course right now. It's just something that I'm going to do on my time instead of making you guys sit here and watch. But I'm going to go ahead and just add a corner piece in. And keep putting it 0, 0, 0 and then moving it to my location where I want it, because the fact that I set it up based off of 200s, I can look right here and I know that this at 1200, it's going to be perfectly lined up and meet up with the other piece. It's not going to have an overlap. Now the meshes, I can take them out later as I start putting other pieces in, and can actually use the Synty Studios assets, like a set of stairs if you need to go down, or dock pieces, or whatever, castle wall sections, sidewalks, gutters, whatever. All these assets that are done by Synty allows you with so many different things you can add into your map and be able to just create a level of coolness. So, say if I want to put in a ramp, do 0, 0, and 0. Now some of these pieces aren't going to line up perfectly. But with this portion right here, I know that these dimensions, once I set up this direction, it should be right. And this way, also negative 400, and that's going to line it up perfectly this way. Height-wise, whatever. You see, I've set it up to where these match with each other and that kind of stuff. By not having a floor down, it can actually take you longer because you have to move things quite a bit. So no, this should be 1200. And let's move it down. So I'm just going to finish this portion of this one. We'll just add the cup in. Rotate it 90. I know that I need to move it. I mean, you can manually enter in the numbers as well. This is negative 1500. Nope, 1600. So that will finish off this portion of that hole. And by having my lowest point, I now know where I can put things like my out of bounds, my water, islands, whatever I want to put in here. The next thing I need to put in, gadget-wise, would be the cup. And I know this one, since it's supposed to be in the center, 1200, and this should be negative 1600, and that should line it up perfectly. Just change the elevation down. And then out of bounds. Put that at 0, 0, and 0. I'm actually going to put this down even more. Since I've got my cup there, I can actually move this over temporarily and make sure that I got my elevation set right. You can set it even lower. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up here. So yeah, then you just want to scale it up whatever you want, 10 by 10. Then let's go ahead and go to our Synty assets, and let's go with our meshes, environmental, and let's throw on some water. I'm going to 0, 0, negative 250. So if we hit play now, and see we're above the water. But if we get crazy and knock it out of bounds, it's going to fall through the water and reset us. Again, I will add the clamping to the ball to stop it. Once it gets to a certain point, I want to stop its movement. Plus, if you go out of bounds, I want it to stop its movement, then reset it, so you're not rolling whenever you come back in. Since I didn't set the value of this, it's going to fall through the world. Nope, it started back in here. Never mind. But I can change that value, so whenever I create hole number 2, then it will then automatically teleport you to the T section of the next hole. So we got some water. Let's start putting in some other ships and other stuff. So another important thing, get organized. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this hole 1, and I'm going to take all this stuff here, except for my out of bounds and my water, and I'm going to make that part of hole 1. All the things that make up hole 1 will go into that. The rest will go into a scenery folder. Call it scenery. Don't even know if it's spelled correctly. Whatever. Throw that inside there, and keeping this clean lets you help organize. Okay, this stuff for hole 1, I want to just move it the entire hole. I want to move it over some. So now all I got to do is go here, grab all of it by doing left click, shift left click, and now I have all of them selected. I know exactly what's where, and I can just drag this all over the frickin' map, put it wherever I need to. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. So my water, if I move it up to where it's just underneath there, water won't come up, but it still looks like it's part right there. If I wanted to add some other stuff in right here for props or items or buildings, we could set it up to where start pulling in just whatever scenery we want to make this kind of work. You can also use the environmental pieces. There are grass tiles and there's a sand tile, which come in quite handy. And you know good and damn well, if you're going to do Synty Studios Pirates and you're doing a mini golf, you've got to use that skull somewhere in it. A little bit of fire in the eyes and whatnot. I will use it somewhere. What I'll do is I'll create this beach section. And yeah, that's fine. I can actually bring in another one over here. Actually kind of worked out a little bit. So yeah, you just grab your pieces and throw them in wherever you want. And that's the joy of the Synty assets. You got so much to work with. I'm actually gonna bring this to here. You can do things like that just to kind of stop the water from getting through. And I could put something underneath the back portion of it. That was a good setup. Having the sounds in here, first off, with when you hit it with the putter, it does make a little sound. That helps. So you can see the ball is not dropping in deep enough, so we need to do something with our terrain over there. And we can always drop the water down. You're not actually going to be out there walking on that portion, so you don't have to worry about, you know, as much, because you're not letting your player walk around. You're actually using them on the course. So let's put a little shanty building out here. Just add whatever scenery you want. I'm sure I'll probably come in here and delete everything and start from scratch all over again. But it is nice that there's just so much stuff to work with that you can create some really good looking maps really quickly with all these assets. You can't go wrong with all the skeletons too. But yeah, I'll spend some time on my own creating these maps a little bit at a time. Add a shipwreck in. Come on. So when you're in here, you do have the ability to look around. So you'll see things like, oh, well, you know, there's a pirate ship over there, or there's a shanty over here, or what have you. I like that one there. Just have fun decorating. That's all I got to say. Is it's so much to work with that if you can't come up with a good map, it's not Synty's fault. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with this map. Environments, you got trees. Now, the cool thing, if you want to use the foliage, actual foliage editor, you can actually, whenever you set that up, when you place your foliage in with the foliage editor, you can set the trees up to automatically scale between, say, 0.75 and 1.4. And as you're putting them into your map, each tree goes down slightly different from each other. So that is a nice little touch. And of course, you'll have to have some tropical themed music going on and that kind of stuff. So take your time, do what you want to do, create your map the way you want to create it. Just have a ball with it. I've shown all the core features in here for how to create the basic functionality for the golf portion. What I would like to do is, if anybody wants to just kind of hang out, join a team maybe, and come over to Discord, say, hey, you know, love to get in there and start creating a game. Actually, let's take that off of there. Throw some particle effects in here. We got wake. I haven't used that one yet. I don't even know what it is. But let's put fire in here. Now, with some of the other golf games that I have seen, I have seen where you hit a cannon and then you can use that cannon to actually launch your golf ball. So that's something to look at for later on too. But and with characters, I have an asset pack that I got from the marketplace. It's the pedestrians asset pack, and it's like 200 something freaking animations. Huge amount of animations. I will probably bring that in here so I can put some characters in that are just standing around. I might do some that are doing animated like shooting at each other or fighting with swords or whatever. So there's some background scenery, character animations going on. Yeah, he didn't look right without having a chest next to him or something to lean his arm on. So you got a DG laying over there. The characters come with it. There's also something that has to be done here. You've got a shark and a base animation for the shark, and a fish and a base animation for the fish. So really quickly, before I conclude this video, I'm going to make the shark roam around the map. So I'm going to go back to my characters folder and blueprints, and I'm going to create a blueprint called it is a actually I'm going to cancel. I'm going to take my current third person character and I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to call this shark underscore BP. I'm going to go into it, and everything that I've got in here I'm just going to delete. So I'm not actually going to be playing this character anyway, so compile and save. We'll get rid of the follow camera, camera boom, FPS camera, mesh. I'm going to change over to the shark. So I go to character, creature, shark, skeletal mesh, and I'm going to hit that. So now I have a shark here, and it's got the right material. Animation class, I don't have one. I can use animation asset, and then shark anim right there. Compile and save. Now, first thing I'm going to do is, for now, I'm going to go into my world settings, and I'm going to change my golfer back over to an actual character that I can walk around in. So if I hit play now, I can walk around because I want to be able to see the map and explore, but I want to see the shark. So now I take my blueprint for my shark, place it into the map. Yeah, the capsule collision's wrong, but we're not going to deal with that anyway. And if we hit play, where RB the shark? He fell. So this is where what I would do is come in here for the base terrain. Since there isn't one, go to your landscape, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to change it to 4x4 and create. Then I'm going to come in here and go to my landscape, and I don't want it there. I want it lower. So we'll put that at -500. So it's there. What I would do later is come back in and actually create an actual material on there, a landscape material. But for right now, we just want to see the shark. We want to see the shark move. So come in here and you can see the shark is below the ground. So what I want to do here is, since this is the one that I'm going to use and the setup that I'm going to use, go to my mesh, and I'm going to move him up to the top of the capsule. So if we look at him now, the capsule may drop down and touch the actual ground level, but the shark's now going to be above that. So you can actually, and what I'll probably do is come back in here and raise the landscape. Let's try it at -300. And then also raise the shark up a little bit, or lower the shark as needed, so the shark will actually be in the water. Grab our mesh, let's throw him back down. hard to see there. Yeah, it needs to come down just a little bit more. Because for this, we want the shark to be visible a little bit in the water. Probably go a little bit more. Alright, so to give him a little bit of movement, just simple. We'll grab event tick. Even though I don't like using event tick unless I really have to. We'll start off with that, and we're going to create another variable, which is moving question mark, and we're going to get that. Get is moving. Get a branch node, connect that. Now, one other thing we're going to have to do here is we're going to need a volume of a nav mesh bounds. Going to 0, 0, and 0 on that. We're going to do this by 5, should be good enough. And then scale it up to fit the map. So if you do put any other AI that you want to walk around or whatever, then you'll have a place for them to go. So we'll do 60 by 60. We're going to hit P key. Here we go. So everything in this green area is going to be okay. So I'm going to hit P and close that. Go back in here. So, okay. If we are not moving, then what we want to do is AI move 2. We want to get a reference of our mesh. We want to get world location. Plug that in here. Not really. We don't want to plug that directly in there. So, pawn. I always find that it just seems to be best to go ahead and get a reference itself. Just get it over with. Target actor, if we wanted to go after a character or a player or something like that, we would use that there. But for our destination, we want to go ahead and get random reachable point in radius or random point navigable radius. So I'm going to use that one. And just plug this into here for my origin. Radius, I want to go about 10,000, whatever. Just going to give him a radius to go to, and as long as he's within 5, should be good to go. At this point, we want to set is moving to true from here. So while he's moving, he is actually moving. And then on success, we want to do the same but opposite. We want to set is moving to false. So when he gets to his end, Shark's not going to stop. So when he gets to his end, he's just going to find a new location and keep on going. So let's see if that makes our Shark work. And he's not moving. Get your ass moving. Alright, let's see here. AI move 2 is moving, is true, then no, that's why. False needs to go to here. So if he is not moving, and then he needs to start moving again. So there we go. Our Shark is swimming. So as you're playing through your round of golf, you'll see a random shark swimming around. Now that he is there, you can put as many of them as you want on the map. I'll throw another one in there. Doesn't matter how they look now. And we'll throw another one in here. So as we hit play, we'll see we got sharks going around. You can do the same thing with the fish, since you've got a basic animation for the fish. Then if we want to go ahead and start playing golf again, go back to my world settings, change it back to my golfer, and hit play, and now we can play golf. Round 1, hole 1, whatever, and we can see sharks moving, we can adjust our power levels. It's good to go. What we need to test here is what happens if we go out of bounds here. This is the thing, you're going to end up having to create so many different things. When you start creating crazy maps, you're going to end up having issues where, oh man, if I land there, it stays in play. So that's why I love creating something like the out of bounds. Now I can put that wherever I need to, scale it wherever I need to. I can angle it if I need to. So just go through, as you're doing your map, you're going to have to do a lot of testing and stuff. Find your out of bounds regions, so forth. Like with this island, I'm going to have to put another out of bounds in here and scale it up so that anywhere outside of the hole itself needs to be listed as out of bounds. So that would be the final thing that I would do. I would not worry about that until your hole is actually completed, because you're probably going to end up having to change it, move it around, and that kind of stuff. And that's why with the way the blueprint's set up, I created a reset function, so you can reset your ball back to normal again. So entirely up to you on how you want to set it up, but like I said, once I get a little bit farther along and I set up the ball stop, like I said, I'll change the size of the ball as well. I want the ball to come to a stop sooner. Some of the things you need to set up whenever you're configuring the ball is friction. Let's see, try it at 200. Oh no, not enough. And he made it. Alright, so yeah, there's a lot of little things that need to be done still. This is just an afternoon of screwing around, but I will streamline more on the actual player, so that when the ball gets close enough to a stop, it physically stops it. Whenever you hit your reset button right here, it will actually stop the ball from moving and then reset it. That way, that way, in like this situation right here, I hit the ball, I'm still moving. If I hit reset, it's still moving. So let me hit it a little bit harder here. So I hit R, and we want to stop that from happening. So probably want to get like the velocity of the ball, and if it's 0, then we can do whatever. But with the golf ball itself, when you simulate physics, add your mass in here, you can increase or decrease the mass as you feel fit. The drag or the force added to your movement, angular damping, so like whenever you're hitting things, that will reduce the output of power. You can increase these numbers. You can increase the mass, but you definitely want to have physics enabled and add some mass to the ball so it works with gravity and so forth. It is a kind of a must there. The spring arm was just attached to there. The camera was attached to the spring arm and just kind of moved back a little bit. I don't think there's anything else I forgot on the setup here. There's not a whole lot. And so I left the print strings in just so I could see what the actual hit value was until I come up with a better scale Like when you hit play, you've got the bottom right hand corner, you actually have the your power meter. Now I've got it set to scale by 50. Every time you feel your mouse wheel click, it's bumping by 50 each time. You can do by 20, whatever you want, 10, 1,000, 100, whatever, by changing that value, which is launch speed. Whenever you're adjusting your mouse wheel to change your speed, it's set to go in 50 increments. I could create another variable for that. So we create a variable which would be speed adjustment. Change that into a float. Compile. I've got it set at 50 currently, so that's good. And I can click here to expose that value, compile and save. And now I can take that and plug that into my plus or minus on the mouse wheel essentially. So plug those two in, into both of those right there. Now it's currently set to 50, so it's going to be fine. But also, you can see it still works. But if you click on your player start, so click on this right here, and the details panel, you don't have anything here. But if you were to actually put this in instead of a player start, so it's going to use that instead of a player start. We're going to put that in here. We're going to hit play, and now it's going to use that. But let's actually get rid of the player start and see what happens here. Alright, it falls into midair because it's going where the camera was. Yeah, we need to stick with the player start. Let's delete that. Let's put our player start back in. Actually, we can Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. And let's delete you. So, yeah. Since you can't put that in normal, would have been nice to actually be able to edit that here. But you can always come back into your blueprint and change this value now for your speed adjustment, and there you go. And if you get OCD and you're like, oh my god, there's green, orange, green, green, other green, yellow, you can actually move things and keep all your colors together. If you're OCD like I am, so you have to have the colors matching up, or you have to have the speed stuff together. You can also do this. Go into your category and select this. Change it from default to speed. Now I can come over here to minimum launch speed, change the category to speed, and you can put all of them into their own little separate folder that you can minimize, which I prefer. So now you can minimize that and you don't see them. Stroke count, location. So I mean, I can come over here and change default to locations, and then grab my shot location, change that to locations, and there we go. So I can clean up my variable list. When you're doing a large game and you're doing a lot going on, you're going to probably have 30, 40, 50 variables or more. And by doing that, you're going to clean up how this looks. So this doesn't have a huge ass freaking scroll wheel. So I will continue to mess around. I will get back to the functions of the game itself and polish off this turret a little bit more. So this was just one afternoon of screwing around. I may change this value to 100, but it is nice to be able to have a minimum value of 50. So if you're right next to the frickin' hole and holy crap, I mean, I should have made that shot. You don't want to hit it for 100 if you only need 50. 50 is a small amount. So if you just sit here and just keep hitting the mouse button, I'll put a delay in so you can't do that. You cannot shoot until the ball is stopped moving and it adjusts your shot count. And then, yeah, polish the turret a little bit so it actually gets a bit more functional. But for now, if I create a cool course, at least I have the ability to play. Oh no, I'm out of bounds. So it resets, and like I said, I got to fix all that. I'll fix all the little tiny things and make some progress. But if anybody wants to join in, and I'll probably do another video just on recruiting for this project, we'll say. If I can get enough work done on the core systems of it to make it where it's functionally really good, then I will get some people to join me who are really good at laying out maps, especially with the Synty assets, and create a map based off of 18 holes, like typical golf, and they just slap together. This is not a very good map, but this is hole number 1. Then come over here, do hole number 2. Like I said, by the way, I've got the hole set up for the cup. All you have to do is place that into your map, into the cup, and there you go. It will allow you to set up where the next hole actually is. Mine is defaulting right now to 0, 0, 0 for my location. Rotation is 0, and it's got the scale in here. That's something that I will address later. I will actually make my own golf ball. So scaling will be set back to 1 on everything. So you won't have to worry about changing the scale or what have you. So by having this feature in the cup itself, and this, if you don't want to use a regular cup as the cup, hell, you could use a pot, or you could use a tire, a hole in a tire, or hell, a barrel. You know, you got to get it to land in the barrel or whatever else. All you have to do is put that blueprint in there, which is just a box collision, and scale it to kind of fit the dimensions of that. And now you can use pretty much anything as your hole. Hope that kind of makes sense. Alright, so if you want to join, come on over to my Discord and let me know you want to do some maps. I have got almost everything Synty Studios has. So do you have this asset? There's a good chance that I do. So yeah, just tell me what theme. I want to use dungeons for sure. I want to use the pirates theme. We use city, town, sci-fi, whatever, you name it, I got it. And all you would have to do is create the actual hole itself. If you want to join in, keep in mind that I plan on, if this gets far enough along where the game is actually playable and fun, then not just fun, but multiplayer and aggravating as hell at times, so that you can harass other players, griefing, hitting each other's balls, knocking somebody out of the way, making it fun. Then I will put it on Steam, and for anybody who makes a map, we'll come up with a payment method. If the game actually makes any money, then you'll get paid. Simple as that. If it don't, then okay, whatever. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to play around with the map. I'll make a few more holes, and I'll just keep decorating the map as I see fit. So yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, and I'll do another video tomorrow recruiting for this project. Have a good one. Love y'all, and not just when it's cold.